Welcome back to the Dune Hippie channel. Today, getting right into it because we got all sorts of stuff going on in here in the shop. If you watched my last video, or maybe 2 videos ago, you saw that I got a Lincoln welder. I got this demo Lincoln that showed up. I'm getting to use it for a little while. And right out of the box, this knob was a little funky. It wasn't quite working right. It would go up, it would go down. It was all over the place. Messaged the guy that set this up for me. Said, hey, let's get a warranty claim. So that's what we did, and here it is. This showed up to me on Friday. It's been sitting here. I've been doing other stuff, but there's a truck showing up to pick up the malfunctioning one. I don't even know if it's malfunctioning. I still welded a bunch. I welded those whole beams with that welder. It just, like, once I set the amps, it was fine. It just took a little bit to get to it with that knob. So anyways, we got a new one. So I've got to wire up a plug. I wired this plug up on here. I don't think I put that in the video because I just, I had to watch a YouTube video and do some Googling to make sure I did it right. And turns out I did it right. It's fine. So I'll show you that in this one, how to wire up a plug on there if you get a welder that shows up. So we'll do that. We'll swap the plugs over. This weekend, I got working on my personal truck, my C10. Did a little bit. I'm working on this axle. This is the axle I've had in the truck forever. This is, I think I've told this before, but we'll tell it again. This is the very first thing that I built for my C10 truck build. Built this, I'm pretty sure it was around 9 to 10 years ago I built this. I'd have to really look at pictures and the stamps to know. But nonetheless, this is what got me started in fabrication. Since then, years later, I machined these CNC link mounts up at work, and then I welded those off. I cut the first ones I had off and welded these on. So those aren't 9 to 10 years old. Those are probably like 5 to 6 years old. But the rest of the axle, I built this thing originally way back then. And if you could tell, it's a little different quality than where I'm at now with my skills and what I find acceptable. And that's really where I'm at with kind of why I'm doing this. So on the weekends, I kind of try to work on my own stuff a little bit. I still work on customer stuff. But as the season's getting closer, I do 1 day a week. I put time aside and I work on my stuff. So this is what I'm getting started on. And you can actually see my last video, we were just talking about shanking bolts and why it's important. I know it's important because I've already made that mistake. You know, I run this business and this channel now selling my knowledge and skills and experience to customers because at the end of the day, I've just been out there and I've done all this stuff. If I'm doing something, there's always a rhyme or reason behind why I'm doing something. It's probably because I've already screwed up and I've learned why not to do it that way. So this is one of the reasons why. This axle originally, these upper link mounts were only 3/16. I added these weld washers on later to fix this because I had a bolt come loose one day and it wasn't shanked properly. The nut just backed off of it, which happens constantly on these trucks. You should, if you own a pre-runner, you should be under the thing every trip with wrenches checking your stuff because something's loose. And if it's not loose, it's just a matter of time before it comes loose. And when stuff loosens, then you have massive problems. So that's what happened on this. Bolt loosened, ovaled my holes really bad out. Because I heard a noise out in the dunes, but I just continued to drive it for several more laps. And then I came home and I found that. So we are fixing it. I did it the one time. I welded up a weld washer, but now that happened again to me last season. I think this hole is a little ovaled out. Yeah, if you look at that, that weld washer is ovaled out now. So even though I fixed it, it still was only 3/16 because those holes on the inside are so ovaled out. So anyways, long story short, we'll get more into that later because now I'm not going to work on this for the rest of the week. But I started cutting this off because, yeah, I'm going to be cutting out this whole center section, cleaning this up, And then I'm going to also re-weld all this stuff. This was all welded with a 110 volt, 130 amp MIG machine, which you can see I barely had enough amperage to get the wire to melt. Really not that much penetration. So that's why that looks like that. But at the same time, if you see me drive my truck, this thing's been under there the whole time, and I've never had an issue with this rear end. So as far as the bracing and like it bending, the truss did its job. Now this, we have had issues, and that's why we're here fixing it. So anyways, we'll get more into more C10 stuff. I'm going to be trying to get something with my C10 in these videos more on a weekly basis. That's kind of a new thing I'm coming up with, 1 day a week. I'm committing to working on my truck because we are getting that thing out there again this year, and I got a lot of plans in store for that thing. So we got to get busy on it. Ranger, I worked on this a little bit, and we're going to start off on this probably today, working on it more. Worked on this, getting bolts shanked, got links and stuff bolted back on there. I got the mounts bolted back on, so kind of where I'm at with this is ready to put this rear end back together. I just got to swap the rest of the bolts out to the correct shank bolts now, and then get shocks back on it, and we can set this thing down on the rear. And then we're getting started on the hood project. This right now has 3 hood pins that is really hard to get off. You can't get it off by one person. I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that by one person, but we are gonna switch this to a tilt hood. So this week, gonna be trying to make progress on that. And then on the Chevy, I'm gonna be working on actually starting to frame prep. The frame, we still have coil buckets on this thing. Everything that was able to be unbolted is unbolted from this. But I've got to get a cutoff wheel, get my respirator out, get my leather apron, get all of my cutoff and sawzall equipment on, and we're going to be going to town on that thing. And because we are planning on finishing those up today. So all sorts of stuff going on. I didn't even, oh yeah, and shocks. That's the other thing. Got a couple shocks to do this week. I've got one set done over there, ready to be picked up. And this weekend we got another set dropped off, so some Can-Am shocks. We'll be getting to those. And yeah, enough talking about stuff. Let's get busy. All right, I got the new welder box open. I got the power wire here. First thing I got to do, like I said, is switch and put the plug that I had put on this first welder. I need to take it off now and put it on this welder. So before I unhook these, I got the cover taken off. That's what I had in there. You got your ground is your green. The red's not used. That's for 3-phase. I'm using single phase. And then we got white and black for our 220 volt. So I need to take that apart, take those wires out there. I had to trim them to get them in there. So I'll have to do the same with the new wires. Tape off the red, fold that up. We don't need it. And then these 3 right there. Hook our ground up and then our 2 powers. And then, yeah, we'll have that on that welder. And then we need to take this thing, and it's bolted to the water cooler. So I'm gonna have to unbolt it and take that off and get the new one hooked up. And then we will flip the switch and see if the knob on the new one works any better. Plugged it in, turned it on yet, and tested the knob, but I figured we'd do it together. So we're going to plug this bad boy in. There we go. We have power. Let's flick on our machine. let it do some little, let's see, we'll get up nice and close here, and we will see if the knob works. Water cooler's turning on. All right, we're at 125. Oh, look at that. Oh yeah. So if you didn't watch my other video, the last welder, when you would turn it up, the thing would go up and down. It would drop to like down to all the way down to 10. It would go to 20. It just was sporadic and go all over the place. So that is very nice. It goes, oh, it's only going to 40. I think it's supposed to go to 10. That might be a setting thing. Let's see. Oh, polarity. There we go. Now I bet it goes down to 10. There we go. Yeah, it was on AC, not DC. So there we go. The new welder replacement works very nice. one day, this is what I was able to get cut off of this thing. Getting ready to start day 2 out here on the I-beam Chevy project we got here. Working on cleaning up the frame rails and giving myself a canvas to be able to put our Dune Hippie Machine beams on this thing. So passenger side here, this side was a little nicer than the driver's side as far as the rust situation goes. Still had a lot of factory paint on this side. I do have a little bit of brackets up here on the top and then some rust there that I'm going to clean up the top of the rail today. Over on this side, I do need to cut this little guy off and then the flange for the front bumper and finish cleaning up the front horn. So I'm not as worried about this side. This should go relatively quick. I am going to leave this cross member in right now because this is helping hold my frame rails together, keeping everything nice and parallel and straight. And I won't go and cut that out. Now, we're not going to end up using that. That will get cut out eventually, so I'm not going to spend the time on grinding and sanding that all down. But I'm going to wait until I get beam pivots on here, some beams, and a new cross member built. And then we'll cut that out of there. So for right now, don't mind that. That will go. And that's not going to be... The front beam will be somewhere-ish in that range. I'm going to start calculating that out. Probably not in this video, but once we get all this video and this stuff done. So I got a little bit more over here to do. I ended yesterday over here. At one point, I got this fan here and opened my shop door behind this thing because the amount of rust and dust coming off of this thing was pretty immense. So I opened up the shop door, turned the fan on, let it really blow underneath the truck, and went to town for a little while. So, gonna have to do the same thing again today. Get my PPE gear on and go after this rust on this driver's side a little bit more. Same thing, cut out that little bit of a, whatever that thing is, and get this thing all ready for mounting some beams. I am planning on, you see some rust in here, it'll get cleaned up a lot better than this. And then before I get started and moved on, I will be using a product called Fast Etch. It is a chemical process, so it's a liquid, you spray it onto the frame, and what it's doing is it's stopping the oxidation process of rust in steel. So it will convert, it's a rust converter, it will convert it to, I don't remember what it's called that it converts it to, but we're going to be using that on this truck because we have rust. There's going to be rust into the pores, probably stuff that you can't see once I'm done. So maybe I'll talk a little bit more about that and we'll show a before and after when I use that stuff. So. There we go. First look at a beam underneath of this truck. Just finished cleaning up all my mess from cutting and grinding and prepping the frame to get beam pivots going on this thing now. And wanted to do, of course, after you do a bunch of stuff like that, you always gotta, teach yourself, I guess. So throwing that under there, gonna get some beam pivots cut out in the next episode and continue work in progress on that. But I think we're gonna end this one here today with that. I didn't end up filming. My batteries were dead and I just got working on it. I am one bolt. I gotta swap this one bolt on the Ranger, and then I need to cut the upper bolts on that, and then all the bolts are swapped. And I'm actually going to be switching right now, so this is going to be in the next video. I got to take the bed sides off and then get the welder set up in here to do the weld washers and swap the bolts on the shocks. And then the rear end of that can go all back together. So we're going to get wrapped up here, and we'll get going on those for the next episode. But yeah, we'll end that with a little bit of front shot. It's kind of hard to tell because that big, huge cross member is still in there that we're not going to need, but you get the idea. Thanks for watching the channel. Catch you next time. Peace.